Good morning, my fellow Americans. So, my name is Nanette Sage, and I wanted to make this quick video to convey to you my thoughts on the education in America and what I thought should be looked more deeply into as a solution to achieve a greater level of education in our beautiful country, and specifically in the state of California. Um, but if I, or wherever I go, I think this would work. So let's take it from the top. Our educational system, our structure, um, it makes sense. Throw a bunch of kids into a room with an educator, and you know, just shove as much information in their face as you can, hoping they'll grab some of it. Worked pretty well for a long time, but technology is advancing, and education is starting to suffer. And I'm going to explain my reasons as to what I think is going wrong, and then from there, what I think is a solution. What I think the biggest issue with education is, I think it's a mistake to vote for a school superintendent. I don't think that should be an elected position. I think that position should be a position that is hired into by the mayor of a city. I think the mayor of the city and their department should be responsible for hiring the school superintendent. And let me explain why. Okay. So in your educational structure, you have your superintendent, and then you have the people the superintendent's going to hire, which are principals. And the principals hire vice principals, and the principal hires teachers. And then you have the kids that they're all responsible for. Well, a superintendent is elected, and so they are going to lean on principals to make sure the schools are catering primarily to making happy families, happy parents, happy voters. And the principals, as we as teachers all know, principals lean on the teachers to do things that really aren't the best things for the kids. But they're doing things that are going to make the principal's life easier because the principal's got their boss leaning on them. You see, really crappy parents, if they're smart, they know to go after the superintendent and bog down the superintendent. The superintendent contacts the principal and says, "What the hell is going on? Fix it." Because, that superintendent, if they're going to get reelected, they're going to have to make sure they have a bunch of happy parents. And the superintendent is completely focused on their election and education. They don't have to care about other facets of their office. They don't have to worry about making other parts of their job, like a mayor. They don't have to make them happy, or they don't have to make the people happy pertaining to the other facets of the job. The superintendent is just, they're just like trying to make their job easier and to make themselves look good, so they'll get elected and back into that position every year. But if they were hired into it, their focus is no longer trying to satisfy and please the parents. It's going to be, make the system work. Help make, why aren't the children getting, a better education? The mayor is going to be bogged down with all those crappy parents, yes, or that department of the mayor. But the mayor's attention is not going to be trying to cater to those parents, because the mayor has to worry about the police department, the fire department, the parks and recreation. They have to worry about everything else too. And so they're not going to be zeroed in on trying to make those parents happy. Some whatever kind of parents they are, um, you know, who are wanting their kid to get special attention, or why is my kid at home when they should be there? It could be bad parents that don't want to parent and they want the school to do the parenting. Who knows? So I think one of the biggest problems is having an elected official over the educational structure within our environment. You should not have elected school superintendents. They should be a hired position, and they still will have the responsibility of hiring the principals, and principals will be responsible for hiring their vice principals and so forth. But the superintendent won't be as easily manipulated by the people that are electing them, and they won't owe favors to anybody either. So I think that's number one. Number two, another biggest problem is we allow schools to kind of regulate wealth, I guess, in a way. As the whole idea of having private schools for rich people to be able to send their kids to, and public schools are where the poor kids go to. I can understand the logic behind the wealthy's desires there, but I don't think that's a benefit to the educational system. In some countries, they don't allow the private schools. The kids all go to the public schools. And the advantage of that, if you want to pay for a private education, fine, but you should get no benefits at all whatsoever from the government. None. Zero. Zilp. Nothing. In fact, it should be taxed higher. It should be taxed in such a way that those taxes are going to benefit the public schools that much more. And here's why. If a wealthy parent's kid is going to a public school, that wealthy parent is gonna demand that public school do a better job, and they're going to invest more into their child's education, which will help everybody in the long run. They are going to want their child to get the best education, so they're going to be more, or they're going to hire people if they're wealthy. They're going to be, but the point is, they're going to be more involved with that public school, getting the supplies it needs, getting the teachers that it needs, getting the resources it needs to do a good job to make sure their child is getting the education they need. Now, a lot of private schools are religious based. Again, you're not going to get tax deductions. In fact, you're going to be more heavily taxed. And religious schools should be just as heavily, taxed even more, as just like any other private school. That heavy taxing, the whole point of it is all those taxes will go towards hiring better teachers for the public schools, getting resources for the public schools, doing what's necessary to make sure the children are getting the education they need. So these are the two factors that are bringing a lot of damage to our country. Is people just there's a huge gap in wealth in this country, and that huge gap is hurting the educational system. It's hurting everybody that's not wealthy, and there's a lot more not wealthy than there are wealthy. It's a big, much bigger pool of people that don't have money. And we need to do what's necessary to force the wealthy people to contribute more effort and more money to making the private school structure work. Now, let me tell you something I think that would improve the children's education. And, I'm sure a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old is not going to be wanting to be referred to as a child. But let's just pull you all into this one pool for now, just to understand where I'm going on this. I think the best structure that we could give our schools would be teachers that have a classroom. It's a smaller classroom, for one. No 34, 48, 52 kids with aides and all that. No. We need a small classroom. Now, I would love to see a 10 classroom, never go bigger than 12. I would love that. And I think that if we change the private and the public factor, more funds would be available to the schools to hire more teachers. And I think we need classrooms no bigger than 10. And I think the teachers need to be the same teacher with those kids for at least 4 years. Our public school structure, it's, first through 4, 5 through, it's first through 12th, okay? So if you break it down, so one teacher's with the same kids for 4 years, the kids hypothetically should only have 3 teachers. But here's the thing. And then you take into account kindergarten, okay, so it's a little more, but then their senior year would have one new teacher. But here's how it would work. Kindergarten, let's see, there's the camera. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. One teacher. Kindergarten through third grade. One teacher. Yeah, kids will come into the class. Some kids will go because parents, move and this and that. But the point is, the same kids with the same teacher. Kindergarten, first, second, and third. Right? And then one teacher. 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And then one teacher. 8, 9, 10, 11. So, junior year. And then that senior year, they'll have one teacher. Each will have a different teacher. Their last year in school is a single teacher. That teacher is crucial because this is their senior year. So that teacher's point of or place of position or whatever is going to be they're teaching all the subject areas with these seniors. But the point is that teacher's getting them ready to move on. So that teacher should be a professor, most likely. That's where you have a professor and not just some teacher. They are a professor. They are college tier professor. They're in there and they're going to demand more from these seniors than they would in a high school. And because they're in there, hello, I'm a professor. And they might have that professor, in that one period point, that senior year might be a much bigger class because that might be preparing the kids, whether they're going to move on to college or they're going to move on to a job. Those kids that year will be needing to get prepared when they leave school. Because you're in school for X amount of hours a day, and then a lot of kids, they're working after school. But that's a lot of hours that they've had structured into their lives. And so this professor, their purpose is to say, hey, you're moving on. Now, what we might even be better is if we structure it so that, we have 3 years and the kids are done by 16. in high school. Their high school goes only until they're, around 16. And 17 and 18 is going to be either college, 2 years of college prep, or 2 years, it could be 2 years of something. But I think that, something like that. Now, in some countries, they have this where, those last 2 years, those kids are going to get a combination. And I think those last 2 years might be a good combination. Maybe go 3 years. We go kindergarten, first and second, and then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12 are college prep. Or they're life prep. It's like they're going to get a combination of college courses kind of training, or and life skill kind of training. Okay, we're going to learn plumbing, we're going to learn electrician, we're going to learn pipe fitting, we're going to learn, road building, bridge building, whatever, all the, physical labor stuff, and the stuff that we have, people that we hire people for. They're fixing our cars, and they're, doing repairs in the home. Those kids can learn those skills in those last 2 years, along with college prep courses, so that for the kids that go to college, they're getting their college prep, but they're also learning life skills. They're learning how to balance their budgets. They're learning how to, work with the banking system. They're learning what car insurance and home insurance and all that is about, and they're, real estate. These are all skills they need when they leave school, and if they can get these skills when they're leaving school, before they leave school, they're going to be 1,000 times more prepared than any of us were, and they're going to be 1,000 times more beneficial to us. So this is what I think. I think one teacher for 3 years or 4 years or however 5 years, whatever, single teacher teaching the same kids. Now here's why. Parents today want to be involved with their kids, but the financially, you got, as I said, there's a big gap between wealth. And so your poorer parents both have to work, or one's single and has to work while the other one, who knows where they are. Whatever reason, the kids aren't getting the focus and attention they need to zero in on their educational capabilities. And by having a single teacher for many years, the kids will bond with that teacher. That teacher will learn those kids' learning styles. Having a much smaller classroom is massively better, so you can get those funds by not letting private schools take kids away, and not doing all these things that are pulling the kids away from the public schools, but instead do things that benefit the kids and want all of them in the public school environment. So this is what I think. I think private schools should be heavily taxed. Religious private schools, I don't care if it's religious or not. Private schools should be heavily taxed. And those taxes should go to the public schools specifically to hire more teachers. A lot more teachers, much smaller class size. Those teachers are with those kids for, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many years, 6 years, I really, 5 years. And then, the last 2 years would be the training, whatever. Having a new teacher every year and having these breaks in the year, it doesn't develop the bond that these kids could benefit from. And I think that's what we're missing. So that's my opinion. That covers the whole video there. A superintendent that is not an elected official, but instead the mayor hires the superintendent. The superintendent is a employee of the county, and when the mayor goes, that superintendent doesn't lose their job. Just a new mayor comes in, and if the new mayor then says, hey, let's evaluate how you're doing. Oh, you're doing your job's pretty good. Okay, you'll keep your job. Oh, the schools suck. What are we doing wrong? And you better clean it up, or we're going to hire someone else. The mayor doesn't want to be bothered with the superintendent's lack of doing their job, so the superintendent's going to be more inclined to do their job rather than pleasing the parents. They're wanting to do a good job and to make sure the educational system in that county is giving a good education. So, superintendent's a paid position, not an elected position. Teachers, smaller classroom size, same kids for, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And, I think these, and heavily tax private schools. Heavily tax them. No benefits from the state, no benefits from the government, none. You need that. You need a reason for wealthy people to take a much more powerful and stronger interest in the public schools, and what better way than if their children are going to be attending those schools. And if they don't, well, that's okay. They're wealthy. They can pay all that extra money. That extra money that's going to help the poor communities, achieve a better education for everybody. That's my opinion. Thank you. My name is Nanette Sage, and this is what I think is a solution to our educational problem.